So if you go to Teams, your Teams window should look like this, right? So you have your chat, your calendar, and Copilot should be right here on the left-hand window.
Right there, sorry.
When you click Copilot, we're gonna validate some stuff. We're gonna make an executive coach. Do you see the agent's information on the right, and do you have the create an agent button? Yes. So we're gonna build an agent in this session. All right, so why this matters now, we're using AI as our strategic thought partner. In this exercise today, we're gonna go beyond simple tasks, which everybody's used to just asking AI to draft an email or help me create a presentation or things like that. We're gonna go beyond that, and we're gonna use AI as a challenger or a partner, thought partner, or a coach. We're gonna focus on outcomes for prompting. It isn't just about the outputs, it's about the outcomes. We want the AI to give us as much of the good outcomes as we can possibly get, not just spit out a bunch of information at us. And we're gonna elevate our thinking. So this module is gonna help elevate how you, not only you think about talking to AI and interacting with AI, but then how you can leverage it in your workflows day to day. When you think about things like I was saying earlier in the last session, I've done this task 3 times this week. It's time for me to think about how can I build an agent to do some of this for me, or how can I save a prompt so that I don't have to retype this every single time I tackle this particular task or this step in my workflow. What you're gonna build today is a Copilot agent executive coach. This should be pretty fun. It'll be, you can make tweaks and adjustments as we go through everything to personalize it if you want, or you can just literally copy paste what I'm doing up on the screen too. By all means, I've tried testing it out a couple different times to make sure that it's effective either way. We're gonna build and refine the prompt using coaching loops. We're gonna talk about what loops are. We're gonna simulate some feedback, and then we're gonna hopefully leverage this to either contribute to your team's prompt library, like we talked about, or saving an agent that either is for your use or an agent that's for your team's use. It might be beneficial to the team to try out. So we're gonna take a look at those elements in today's session. And so up first, when it comes to creating an agent, the first thing I should say is there's like a lot of different definitions of agent. For this conversation today, we are just talking about in Teams where it says create an agent, the agent that Microsoft allows you to build. In the world of AI, agent can mean a lot of different things. It can be, recursive learning systems that take in data and self-improve as they go over time. Like there's a whole slew of different ways people talk about agents. But for today's chat, it's just the Microsoft agent platform and capability. And one of the things that we're gonna leverage this agent for is to help us with our context switching. So you're working on this earnest presentation of how to get your team up to speed with AI, and all of a sudden you get a call from somebody or an email or a text. Now you're pulled out of your state of flow and you're having to address this other situation. That's context switching. And every time that happens, it adds a little mental load. It makes you a little tired, it makes you a little distracted. It's why people always talk about turn off all your notifications when you try to get into things, right? But we're gonna build a universal agent that's your executive coach, and this agent's gonna help you clarify team needs, challenge any assumptions that you typically have around when you approach a scenario or situation. It's gonna reveal blind spots that you may not have thought of, or ones that maybe you did think of. And it's gonna align with your execution strategy of what your business is trying to accomplish. So the first step in building an agent is we need to start with a prompt. Now, we interact with large language models by giving it prompts, and today we've already talked about different prompt frameworks that can help us get better results from the large language models. There's an element of building an agent where you're gonna give it a prompt as well. And in Microsoft world, they call it instructions. In ChatGPT world, they call it a system prompt. And it all kind of depends on what platform you're working through. But this is an idea that you're not just giving a prompt to ask for one thing, you're giving a set of instructions for how this agent is going to act and interact with you based on a specific scenario. What I've found can be really helpful is to make sure that you're specific with the use case of your agents. If it's too broad, you might as well just prompt the AI. The goal of an agent is to hone in on a very specific, narrow task that you want to streamline and just, you do it regularly, so you're going to ask the AI to do this. So we're going to take the role prompt format and we're going to give the AI, the role of a coach. We're going to talk about goals, what we want it to evaluate. We're going to talk about constraints, whether that's the amount of time it takes, the risk assessments. We're going to talk about the output format. So how do we want the AI to deliver our information back to us? And then lastly, we're going to add a new element called loop logic. And loop logic is basically saying at the end of each response, you're going to tell the AI agent to ask you another question or to think of another thing so that you don't have to do that as well. Now, here's an example of what this base prompt or instruction prompt could look like. We're going to say, first it's the role, act as my executive coach. Then we're going to take a look at what we're trying to do. I want help improving communications across various departments. Ask one question at a time to challenge my assumptions about my current situation. So in this one, we're being a little bit more vague. We're not telling it the specific situation yet, but we're saying, I'm going to tell you my situation and I want you to help me think through it. And then we're going to give it constraints. So start by asking about my current situation. And then this is the loop. After I respond, summarize what you heard and ask me your next best question, right? So the AI is basically, the way this is going to work is the AI is going to think, okay, I'm an executive coach. Jeff wants to improve his communications with other departments. I'm going to ask him a question to challenge his assumptions based on whatever scenario he throws my way. And once Jeff throws me that scenario, I'm going to give him my best answer and summarize what he heard, and then I'm going to follow up with my next best question. The idea here is to get the conversation ball rolling, to break you out of your standard way of tackling communicating with other departments, and challenge you to continually push the communications envelope towards your audience's desires, not your own. All right, so now we're going to get into actually building the agent in Copilot, and I'm actually going to see if I can switch up my screen here a little bit so we can see both windows. All right, so on the right-hand side, we talked about this idea that we've got the Create an Agent button. Go ahead and click that button, and as we talked about earlier today, there's two different ways to configure your agent. The first way can be really helpful if you've never done this before, because the Copilot is actually going to help you build your agent for you. And you can just talk to the Copilot, you can type things in and tell it what you want it to do. You could just give it that initial prompt that we showcased earlier and say, I want you to act as my executive coach. Boom. And it'll start building the agent for you and set up all the instructions. Or what we're going to do is we're actually going to click on this configure button, and we're going to go in and we're going to add the details ourselves. I'd encourage you to check out the described version next time you want to build another one just to see how it functions. But I want to give you the tools to actually go in and do the nitty-gritty work so that you can nail that for sure, because the describing capability is pretty straightforward and intuitive. All right, so once we get an agent, there's a set of templates up here that you can leverage. If you build templates or want to use templates, you can do that. I don't have any saved, so there's not going to be any there. You're also going to have an icon here that you can upload a picture or change the color or whatever. The first step that you're definitely going to need to do that's required to create an agent is to give it a name. So we're going to call it Comms Coach. Once we've given it a name, then we need to write a description. Now, the description doesn't have to be anything exhaustive. This is literally just for your own understanding of what the agent does if you forget, or if you're going to share this out with a team, this can be really helpful because the team members will see this description to understand what this particular agent does if they want to engage with it. So this one, we're going to say this Copilot agent serves as a communications coach that guides me through departmental context switching by asking one question at a time. The idea being the way you talk to a marketing manager is going to be different than the way you talk with an HR member or a sales team member, so on and so forth. So up next, we're going to do instructions. So this is the prompt. This is where the action happens. These are the instructions that your agent is going to follow every time you throw a prompt its way. So regardless of how a large language model acts, they're just going to give you general answers and however you prompt it. The idea, again, to reiterate here, is this is a specific scenario you run into and you want to have the agent tackle this for you on a repeated basis. You don't want to have to write out this full prompt every time. You'd rather just give it the information and have it take action. So we're just going to copy paste this prompt into the instructions. We're going to say, act as my executive coach. I want help improving communications across various departments. Ask one question at a time to challenge my assumptions about my current situation. Start by asking about my current situation. After I respond, briefly summarize what you heard and ask me your next best question. So that's the rules that this agent is going to follow. As you're typing, I will reiterate, we're creating a recursive coach here. So the recursive element of this prompt is that last line where we're asking it to summarize and then ask the next best question. That forces the AI to just move forward in the next element of the task rather than it giving you an answer and you then having to prompt it with, okay, so what should I do next? If I'm trying to convince my chief strategy officer that AI would help our sales teams, I don't want to just tell it my situation and have it give me one answer. I want it to have it work through the full dialogue with me. And so by forcing it to ask you the next best question, you're making the AI do the work for you. A couple other pieces to note here. There's a knowledge base in every agent. Now the knowledge base can be documents, it can be websites, and you can even point it at company files and information. When you click into the knowledge base, some of your existing files will already pull up, whatever is living in your OneDrive, for example. You can organize by files, sites, chats that you've had, or as I said, you could punch in just a standard URL as a point of reference. We're not going to utilize this feature for this agent. That'll be in a subsequent talk, but the idea here is you want to give your agent information about you, for example. You could say, here's an email this is my tone, right? This is how I typically respond to emails, whatever it may be. Capabilities. So code interpreter and image generator, this is saying, you know what, I'm going to be giving this agent bits of code to consider and work on, or I want this agent to be able to make pictures for me. Not going to always be necessary, so I typically leave these off unless you're working in a development environment or if you're actually wanting to generate images. Perhaps this could be more relevant for the, for the marketing team, for example. And then the last piece here is suggested prompts. So these are starter prompts that you can add in with just a click of a button if there's regular things that you're going to ask this. So like a starter prompt could be something like, I'm working with marketing and need, or it could be something like, help me draft a response to this. So these are like little cheat sheets. These are little pre-prompts that you can use so that once the agent is created, you can just click on these and it'll get the ball rolling for you right away. So the title could be like marketing. So in this example that I'm saying, this is my marketing title. So when the card pops up, it'll show marketing, and then I'm going to give it the pre-prompt of, help me with the CMO on that. Help me work with the CMO on this. So then once all that's completed, now we're going to run the agent, and I'm going to expand this window so we can take a look at that. So up in the top right corner, you'll see a create button. Go ahead and hit that. It's going to start creating your agent. So now once your agent is created, you're going to get a link to it that you can save if you want. You can go to the agent, or you can just clear out of here if there's additional changes you want to make. The reason it says dismiss is there might be times where you're actually entering a pretty extensive prompt into the instructions and you just want to hit create to save your progress so that if you get interrupted or if something happens to your computer, you don't lose all that prompting work. One other way to mitigate that would be to build your prompt in like a Word file, for example, first, and then bring that over once it's all done and ready. But that being said, we're going to go over to the agent now. Go to agent. You'll see down at the bottom here, here's the little card we made for marketing. It'll say, help me work with the CMO on this. You can click that, and what's cool is it just drops it in, and now you can say, I'm rolling out a new, we'll say, employee laptop giveaway. Help me convince CMO this is a good idea. We'll hit run. All right, so now we're off and running. It says, got it. You're planning a laptop giveaway for employees, want to promote it, need the CMO buy-in to get on board. Before we shape the pitch, I'd like to understand your situation a bit better. What's the main goal of the giveaway? Employee engagement, brand visibility, talent attraction, something else. We'll say talent attraction. All right, so it said you're rolling out a laptop giveaway to attract talent. To help you make a strong case, here's my next question. What kind of talent are you trying to attract? specific roles, skill sets, demographics. We need more AI developers, and I think giving away laptops will entice them. So now you can see it's summarizing what it's heard, it's asking the next best question, and it's working us through this scenario. Essentially, if I hadn't thought of any of this stuff before, it's forcing me to think about it, right? If I didn't think like, oh, I just thought it would be a good idea because people would want to come work for us, I didn't have like a specific demographic in mind. Now I'm thinking, oh yeah, I should probably have a demographic in mind, for example. The next question, what do you want potential AI developers to take away from this giveaway? What does it say about your company, brand, or value? You could say like, we have a rewarding culture. You're positioning a laptop giveaway as a reflection of your company culture. Here's my next question. How do you plan to measure whether the giveaway actually helps attract the AI talent you're targeting? We'll put SEO trackers in our social posts to validate web traffic and collect resumes to gauge the difference or the AI dev applications. So now you can see it's going back and forth and back and forth. It's helping you craft your message. It's helping you think about like, how am I ultimately going to accomplish this? Now, if you're getting frustrated and you're like, stop asking me questions, we could try something here and we could just say, I don't have any further info about this. Please give me an email with what you know that will convince the CMO. Boom. So now it took all the information that we fed into it and it drafted a message for the CMO. It said, hey, I'm rolling out a new initiative, a laptop giveaway for employees, and I'd like to propose sharing it on social media channels to support the attraction, specifically targeting AI developers. Here's why I believe this is a strong opportunity. It signals a rewarding culture, something we talked about. It differentiates the competitive market, and it supports measurable recruitment goals. I'd love, and then it adds detail for each of those points. I'd love to collaborate with your team, yada, yada, yada. So again, may not be the exact message you want to send, but it's probably 75, 80% of the way there. Now you can just make some fine tuning and adjustments like getting rid of the M dashes and filling in the CMO's actual name, and you're off and running. And this was, again, something that took us 13 minutes to build, but now you have a go-to resource anytime you want to brainstorm communicating with another department. It's going to force you to think about different ways that you could communicate with that group. It's going to make you think through your idea more holistically than just throwing it at the wall and seeing if somebody else wants to adopt it. And it's going to be something that you can regularly come back to ideate on how you're going to communicate whatever it is you're trying to propose to other departments. From here, if there's elements that you like, you can just roll with it and save this agent, use it in the future. If you feel like there's some tweaks to the comms coach that you want to make, on the right-hand control panel, you'll see where the comms coach is listed and highlighted. You can click the little ellipsis and the edit button will pop up. So on the right-hand side menu bar, there's a list of all your agents that you can do or use. You'll see the comms coach one that we've just built. If you click the 3-dot ellipsis, you can either share it or you can edit it. You can also delete it. If you click edit, that'll let you go back into that control panel we had opened up and allow you to configure and fine tune this. So like one thing we could say is like limit your follow-up questions to no more than 7. Be sure to model the persona of my target audience in your response. So by giving it a limit, saying you can only ask me 7 questions because I don't have all day, and by saying I want you to model the persona of my target audience, now it's forcing the AI to get in the head of a CMO or a COO or whoever it is. If you really want to get creative with this, one thing I've done in the past is you can go onto LinkedIn and you can go to the person you're trying to communicate with. You can go to their profile. And there's a feature on LinkedIn that lets you download that person's profile as a PDF. Once you save that PDF, you can upload it here into your knowledge base. And you can say, hey, I've uploaded Marcy's profile to my knowledge base. Review her information and tailor your message to Marcy's communication style based on what you know about her, right? Now you're going into a whole nother layer of, I want to convince this specific person And I want you to model their communication style. I want you to leverage what you know about their past and their history and how I communicate with them, right? This is like 7 different kinds of smoke type level of diving in and really getting into communications specifically and how you can use AI to model its responses. What else could we upload to help better train the AI on what this person typically says? An email from them? What are other ways you might be capturing that person, how that person addresses issues or talks and engages with other members of the team? Transcripts, right? If you have meeting transcripts with that person talking about scenarios or proposals and things like that, you could take the transcript and you could upload that into the knowledge base and say, this is how Jeff typically deals with new idea proposals. Read the transcript. Context is everything, right? So in theory, you could go out, you could build a custom tailored agent for every person that you regularly work with. You could upload transcripts of your meetings with them. You could upload their LinkedIn profiles. You could upload their Facebook, their Twitter, whatever it may be. You could create a full agent that is an exact persona of a particular individual. And if this is blowing your mind, I want to tell you right now that there are probably people, maybe people at your organization. There are definitely people that do this. There may be people at your organization that have already done this. I've created agents for like half the people in the company. As a new employee coming into a new organization, I had no idea who everybody was, what their motives were, what they were like, how to build rapport with them. I built probably 5 or 6 different agents for the different members of the team that I wanted to build rapport with quickly, that I wanted to connect with. Whenever we were communicating, and Jennifer's like learning about this for the first time. I've got a Jennifer agent that I built. I've got a Janine agent that I built, a Brent agent. And all of these agents were used for me to gain traction more quickly, because it can be hard to understand, Jennifer is really open and likes to share things, so I can approach her with more open ideas and share more and discuss a topic. Whereas, some will make somebody up and say, John is way more direct and John wants everything concise and he wants everything outlined and clear. Things like that can be really helpful as you go into your meetings, as you go into try and propose new ideas and things like that. So again, we started very high level with a communications coach that can help you with cursory information about how you could, here's some best practices and tips and tricks, like your sales team, right?
Yeah.
Let's say your sales team has a new target that they're going after. Not only are they going to model what that organization does with an agent, they're going to say, this is Total Wine. We're going to say, hey, we're going to build an agent for Total Wine in general. And we can ask this agent anything about Total Wine, because we've not only given it instructions to go find information about Total Wine, but we've uploaded knowledge about who is Total Wine, what's their history, what are their locations, their footprint, their marketing, whatever, right? But then you're going to have points of contact at Total Wine that your salespeople need to connect with. There's going to be a chief operating officer, a chief executive officer, other sales reps, or other people that you need to connect with. Now you can go in and have your salespeople say, hey, go model Steve and have a conversation with Steve, virtual Steve, before you actually go talk to the real Steve. Leverage his public-facing information, build an agent, and have a conversation with it. See what it says. It's not going to be the solve, and you definitely can't talk to the real Steve the same way you talk to virtual Steve, and it's not going to be perfect, but it's just going to get you off zero, right? It's going to help you go from completely cold to lukewarm. And that's better than completely cold. So now you've hit on the nail on the head with sales. How could this benefit your HR team? Or difficult conversations, right? Like, you need to give critical performance feedback to an individual, whether you're a manager or a member of the HR team working on an employee relations situation, right? Let's have that virtual conversation first and get all the hairy stuff out of the way and come up with a plan, rather than just going into it with what we think is the best plan, right? The next meeting that you have, you'll be that much more prepared, rather than having to deal with it. But yeah, you could build customer profiles, right? Yeah. The intent here is really to just help soften the landing, right? It's to help bridge that gap. And this is bringing up a really good point of ethical use of AI and making sure that you're not just giving throwing the tools across the fence and hoping your team knows how to use them effectively, but you're building consistent practices, you're giving coaching and guidance, and you're creating a company policy, company governance, and company ethics around the use of AI, which then kind of loops back on itself and becomes something that you can then tout of like, hey, we're ethical practitioners of AI. If you come work with us, not only are you going to get a whole new skill set that's going to benefit you in your career, but you're going to do it in a way that's sustainable, meaningful, helpful for you and your customers or whatever it may be, right? So it becomes not just a thing to do, it becomes a whole element of what makes Johnson Brothers unique. Once you get the tenant controls in place and you make sure that you're tracking, organizing your employees within the Microsoft tenant, making sure that their access to certain levels through Copilot are set, that they can only get to certain places with Copilot, then you can also turn on features that allow you to track their conversations with Copilot, the agents that they're making, what they're saying between the agents, and the different types of workflows and things that they're building using Copilot. So another key element to this whole discussion of mitigating risk, but also erring on the side of we're going to give you the tools and we're going to give you the best practices you should follow. Just know, like, we're also going to make sure you don't mess anything up, to put it nicely. Okay, so when you're in your comms coach or in the Copilot chat in general, if you type the backslash by the question mark key, it'll pop up this little menu of things that you can select from. So if you want to upload documents, if you want to target specific people, files, meetings, emails, this is how you can point either your agent or Copilot in general at specific things within your OneDrive. All right, so let's wrap up with the AI coaching loop and a couple other key points. And coaching loop, this is an idea that you're gonna do an iterative conversation with AI, which many of you have probably already done. You throw out the initial prompt and you get the response, and then you fine tune and adjust from there, or you build on it. You take what it gave you and you continue to elaborate and build out further plans or further elements of whatever it is you're working on. So the first step here is to get a draft. You can ask Copilot to draft the stuff for you, or you can upload the information that you've already worked on, and you can ask it to reflect. Say, hey, what are the gaps in my assumptions or assumptions that I'm making here? By, again, asking the AI to do the assessments of gaps or assumptions for you. Now it's taking the AI's perspective, breaking out of your own personal, bubble and areas of focus, and getting new perspectives. It's when we talk about like that role, when we assign a role to the AI, it's like having whatever role you could think of. I want Nelson Mandela to consider my comms strategy, think like Nelson Mandela, and help me understand what gaps or assumptions am I making in my comms strategy, right? Or it can literally be anything, or just be a communications expert with decades of experience in corporate communications, right? It can be very specific, it can be very broad, but you're asking the AI to help reflect for you. Then you're gonna refine it, so you're gonna ask for clarity or pushback. One of the examples I always like to share here is you could say like, act like a 1980s Russian Olympic coach and give me the most critical, hard-hitting, nasty feedback of what's wrong with my presentation, right? And you're pushing the AI to really like dig in and just grill you. Because again, it's way easier to let the AI do it than to show up to the meeting and have your boss do it for you, right? So you're getting the AI to do a lot of the heavy lifting on the front end to help you refine. And then the repeat step, this is just saying like, hey, you might have to do a couple rounds of iteration back and forth with the AI to actually get that insight that you're looking for, that nugget that you're gonna leverage in the meeting, or that key fact or research element that you found with the AI before you actually finalize and set the goal. And the last step is then deciding what you actually wanna do in real life, right? Now you've gone through the full cycle of a coaching loop with an AI. The AI, in this example, was our comms coach. You can build different types of coaches for different scenarios, whether it's planning meetings or planning team offsites or rolling out new policies or programs or teaching specifics on a particular SaaS product or whatever it may be, right? Like you can build coaches for all these different things, and they can help. By going through these loops, it can help you get a lot of that messy stuff out of the way first and just refine everything before you actually present and dive in. So the idea here is you're gonna prompt, you're gonna think, you're gonna clarify and repeat. That's how you get to insights with AI. That's how you get through what used to probably take hours of you planning something, then another couple hours of actually rolling it out or presenting it and getting feedback. And then maybe it lands, maybe it doesn't. So then you miss your shot and now you have to go back and hope that the next time you do it, you take what you learned in the last, right? Like that whole process gets collapsed. And that's another really cool thing that I like about AI is it collapses these huge timeframes and huge learning windows to focus in and get you a better first shot than if you just, went about it the standard way. If we go back to just the standard Copilot, up at the top here, we have the work and web options. One thing you can do is say, type in the backslash and look for the item with the search feature here, or you can ask it, where is my presentation on offerings for C4? So yeah, I asked it for a file. It gave me one that it thought, but then it also gave me some other potential options. So you can definitely do that. So a couple last best practices here. Now that we've talked about the loop approach, where we're iterating with the AI through a process, whether it be comms, whether it be strategy, whatever it is, these next two capabilities can just take that to another level. So with role simulation, we kind of touched on this already. It's asking it to, respond as my CFO. You can ask the AI once it gives you an answer, what would the CFO most likely be concerned about? How specific the AI knows your CFO is one thing, right? That we already talked about. It could just be like, how would a typical CFO respond to this? Or how does my CFO respond to it? Here's some information about my CFO. Then recursive prompting approach is you can ask Copilot a list of rapport building options and the prompts to initiate those options, for example. So you could say something like, give me a list of rapport building options with my CFO, and then initiate those rapport building techniques and say, follow up with which option builds the best rapport, execute that prompt and build a follow-up plan, right? So by recursively going over the same subject a couple times with the AI, you can ask it to hone in more specifically on what it is you're trying to accomplish. This moves you along the solution engineering faster than one prompt at a time, right? By telling the AI to not only take one step, you're telling it to take 2 steps of think about the thing, tell me the best option, and then draft the plan for executing the best option. Right? Now, that doesn't always work. Sometimes it'll pick what it thinks is the best option and you might have liked one of the other ones. You can always go back because it'll show you the 10 options that it was going to give you. And you can say, no, don't go with 7, go with 3 or whatever, right? That's the beauty of recursive prompting and asking the AI to think through it with you. All right, the last piece, sharing your agents. So I think we touched on this already as well when we were going through the demo, but up here, when you go to your agent in the right side panel and click on the 3-dot ellipsis, there's a share button that allows you to share your agent out to the team or to specific individuals if you want them to be able to leverage your agent. The piece that becomes important then is, remember, we filled out the name and we filled out a brief description. So you can come up with like departmental tags in the description and say like IT dash, comms agent or marketing dash comms agent or whatever. You come up with the nomenclature as a way to organize things. Sharing regularly can be beneficial as well. Like there's always a delete button. If you get too many and you're not using as many as you thought, you can always get rid of them. But sharing them out just builds that culture, especially amongst yourselves. Since you've all been here now today, you're all gonna go home and you're gonna have unique ideas for different agents. It'd be great in your next team meeting a week from now or 2 weeks from now to come together and say like, hey, what could we share? What did you come up with that's been working? What did you come up with that's been working? And then lastly, this helps you build an infrastructure because again, the more cohesive you all are as a group and the more you can continue to push each other to improve and leverage these tools, all of that becomes visibility to the rest of the organization. And they can start understanding like, wow, the IT group really figured it out. They've been maximizing their effectiveness. They've been more efficient in the tasks that we're throwing their way. And they're collaborating more effectively because they're leveraging the technology the way it was intended. One other last best practice, when you're building this reflex, just ask your AI, what am I not seeing? If you are stuck on a project or a process and you've been trying to work it out yourself, dump the information into Copilot or point it at it if it lives in your Microsoft instance and say, hey, I think I should do this, but I don't feel like I got the right answer. What am I not seeing? It can just trigger, again, it's probably not going to solve the problem exactly, but it can trigger that brainstorming capability so that you see an idea or a hint of an idea in the answers that it makes. So to wrap up this module, what you've built, you've created a Copilot powered executive coach. You've gone through role-based and recursive prompt loops. You've thought about strategic decision support by utilizing these tools, and you've now saved that tool to a library that will continue to grow as long as you commit to it.